Hello YouTube, I'm Tellarknights coming to you with another video here. Why? So, a friend of mine is having some trouble with the game at the moment, and so am I actually, in terms of like Shadolls being stupidly overpowered. I mean, Dark Renewal is finally getting released in the OCG, and they've literally made it so in addition to being a fantastic card for the Dark Magician like it was supposed to be in the anime, it's also now a really very good card for disruption in Shadoll decks. Of course, its effect is that when you normal or special summon, when your opponent normal summons or special summons a monster, you can target one of those monsters, send one of your spellcasters to the graveyard, and the targeted monster to the graveyard to special summon a dark spellcast type monster from your graveyard. But that was its anime effect, but you can also summon it from the deck, which is the actual TCG card effect, which is kind of disconcerting because they're giving it so much support when Shadolls obviously didn't need support, so to speak. But of course they are hyping it, they're ramping up the power creep in Yu-Gi-Oh! And one part of me, of course, is hating it. I mean, like, I've already put a video in regards to me rage quitting against Shadolls, but I mean, it's literally going to be the age-old rule where you need to just realise in Yu-Gi-Oh! People are going to be using unfair cards, and Konami are going to release unfair cards, so what are you going to do about it? Are you going to quit, or are you going to adapt and change, or are you going to embrace it? And it's literally a matter of that. I mean, it's difficult because, like, I don't like Shadolls generally. Like, even if I didn't have the bias of thinking that they were scum and I hated Shadolls, the fact is I don't like how they're not really my kind of thing. I like the fusion aspect, but I just don't think they work for me personally, so it's hard for me to kind of embrace it in that way. But I mean, for example, we've got this new Quilloth. I don't know how. Basically, you've got Violons. They look like Violons, but they're Earth Machine, and they have effects that pendulum summon, and they also have their effects when tributed and tribute summoned, which makes them pretty damn cool. And it makes because of the nature of pendulums, it means they can spam, and they're pretty damn silly, which is great, and I love them because I actually like the deck. So it's a matter of quit, adapt, or embrace, and I think it's better to try and embrace it as much as you can, as much as it is disconcerting and very quite downheartening to realise that your deck cannot be relevant. I mean, that's kind of how card games work, just generally. I mean, we don't cycle out stuff like Magic and Pokemon, but we do, kind of. But, I mean, even that, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of has a better way of doing it, or, like, a much more friendlier way of doing it, despite what you may think. I mean, in Magic and Pokemon, in Magic specifically, there are multiple formats in which you can play whatever cards you want, and that's great, and that's a much better way of like doing cycling out, because it means no matter how many cards of yours have been cycled out, there will be a format out there you can play. However, that's not the case of Yu-Gi-Oh! And because that's not the case of Yu-Gi-Oh!, we only have one format, because that's the only one anybody needs to play. So, with the advanced format, we have the ability to use any card that has been printed, assuming it is not on the forbidden or bad limited list, which is the big thing. But I mean, there's literally nothing stopping you from using whatever deck you want. You can use your Dark Lord deck if you want to. You can use your Frog deck if you want to. However, of course, with the new releases, your cards will get more increasingly irrelevant and outclassed by other things. Like, I would complain about Shadolls being better than Atlanteans, and they are, because, well, they have the similar effect and are wildly better. But what are you going to do? I mean, honestly, there's nothing we can do about stuff that is going to be released. All we can do is show Konami our support or not support, or a lack of support for what their choices are, by either not playing the game or not buying the product, because we don't have a medium in which we can talk to Konami. This isn't like Magic. Magic is a much better game than Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not going to start playing Magic as much as I play Yu-Gi-Oh! Though, because I prefer Yu-Gi-Oh! At its core. But I mean, the systems that Magic has put in place makes it a significantly better game. I don't think this can actually be disputed. It's not really an if or a but or a maybe. It's a definitely. Magic is a better game. However, it's not a better game for most people because, I mean, sometimes literally the aesthetics and what the game allows you to do is trumps all of the kind of faculties and facilities that Magic has instead. So, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is great, so you just need to kind of learn to adapt. But if you don't want to adapt, you have to quit. I mean, people complaining is the main thing. Like, I did a video, I know I'm a hypocrite, I did a video complaining about Shadolls. That's fine. Because actually the power creep is ridiculous. I mean, you have to ramp up the power creep with each additional release, but it's just insane, the power creep that they've done this time around, which I guess is the main reason why I was complaining in that video. However, you need to learn to adapt, otherwise what are you going to do? The Dragon Ruler format was sucky, yes. However, I didn't lose very often, and no, I did not use spellbooks, and no, I did not use Dragon Rulers. For those of you who've been following me since then, you will know that I used a Violon deck. That deck used all the weaknesses that Dragon Rulers had, and it worked in such a way so it could capitalize on those weaknesses. That is adapting, because whenever a deck becomes stupidly good, or whenever the power creep becomes too much, just because a lot of cards will become irrelevant because of the power creep, it doesn't mean that all cards become irrelevant. In fact, some of them become relevant because of the power creep and because of how these new decks interact. Ceasefire? Oh look, you can flip up Shadolls. I'm not saying it's going to be a good way of doing it, but it's an example of a card becoming more relevant because of stuff that is happening. Literally, I have got a video coming up that I will be uploading soon of what's, yeah, literally gone back to Watts just to try it out, and I went up against Shadolls a couple of times, and as much as they can spam and overpower me and just do too much that I can really deal with, and I'll lose, I've won quite a few games against Shadolls, and it's just a matter of adapting, because sometimes stuff isn't relevant anymore, and that's sad, and you need to move on. But sometimes stuff becomes more relevant, so as much as I don't agree with the power creep, you need to kind of get over it. I mean, we don't have a way of talking to Konami, and literally none of us are going to stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And actually, the ideal situation is that Konami would realise that we don't like the fact that they are releasing all of these stupidly powerful cards because they make everything else irrelevant, more so than they make more cards relevant. They would preferably be talking to us in terms of feedback and such, but we're buying the product and we're using the product and we're still playing the game regardless, so you would have thought that majority of the player base would want fair cards and people could have fun. However, no, they want to have an unfair advantage over their opponent, which is why people will use the meta decks and people will complain about them because they've got two different kind of sensibilities in this game. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be a pussy and quit? Nah, that's not fair. You can quit, and I mean, the game is unfair, and you can play a different card game, a better card game. There are better card games out there. But I don't want to quit Yu-Gi-Oh! So I'm going to continue playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm going to just adapt to Shadolls. I'm going to adapt to Tellarknights, or whatever they are called. And you know what? I'm probably going to pick up those the pendulum monster. They're cool. I like them. So I'm going to embrace. I'm going to adapt. I'm not going to quit because I like this game. And if you like this game, that's your only choice. But that's pretty much it, guys. Unless you want to make your own card game, like me. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any thoughts or opinions on Shadolls, power creep, anything I've said in today's video, do say so in the comments down below or as a video response. I will have hopefully a new video coming up relatively soon, and that will be a dual montage featuring Watts because it's fun. I do make misplays in that video, by the way, as a little, just to tell you, but it's fun, it's good, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. But that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, comments, video responses, yada yada yada. I'm Jack Clark, you can more video coming out too soon, but until then, goodbye.